drum roll please for our special guest today. Our special guest this evening is Rudy Escobar, who is a microbit champion and is a totally amazing educator specializing for today in the next generation science standards and bringing equity into his classroom through the microbit. So please give a warm welcome to Rudy. You can welcome him in the chat. Hey Rudy, how's it going? Feel free to unmute. We are so glad you're here.
Hello, Kelsey. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing so well. And actually, for this evening, I'm not going to be conducting your interview. Our friend Amanda Jeane is. So I invite Amanda Jeane on the screen here. You guys are microbit champion pals, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Rudy and I have been able to share lots of learning and good food together.
Yes.
Yes.
And music. And music.
And music, that's right. We got together when we just recently at ISTE in Philadelphia, and we ate a lot of good food. We saw some good music. We had some great times, and we did a lot with microbit. And I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about microbit in our interview.
Excellent. Well, I'll leave it to you and I'll be off screen for this part. Have fun.
All right. Well, hello again, everyone. I'm Amanda Jeane, as Kelsey said, and I'm so excited to explore all these ideas with our really good friend, Rudy Escobar. So Rudy, why don't we just start off with a little bit about yourself and what your current roles are. I know you have many hats that you wear.
Yes. So my day job, you could say, is I'm a STEM and computer science coordinator at the Stanislaus County Office of Education in California. And I work we have a total of 25 districts, but I specifically work with just some districts that I'm partnered with as well. And we do from microbits, from integrating science and other subjects. We did a lot of art also as well with microbit and science. So we've been doing a lot of integration. So that's one of the things I do. I am also CSDA board member for at-large representative, and I'm also CSDA policy liaison as well. And I am also Region 1 director for the California Science Educators Association for science here. So many roles.
Many. Oh my gosh, Rudy, you certainly keep yourself busy, which I know I can appreciate. I'm a busy person myself, but I'm very curious. You do all these amazing things now. I'm curious, like, where that started. Like, what was your first job and your first role, and how did you end up where you are now?
Oh, okay, thank you. So, well, I came to the United States in 1997, and I came with a chemical engineering background.
Oh, wow.
And then I had, chemical engineers have also the computer science background as well. So when I came here, trying to decide what to do, trying to figure out what, have to start over because you have to start over. So I had to go back to college. So I got a degree in chemistry as well. And then also included the computer science certificates. And then I went into the field. So I was actually in the field as working in pharmaceutical, food industry. I also worked environmental as well, labs. And then I used to do all the work for whether calibrating, testing product, calibrating hardware and software. So all those things that I did when I started. And then I just visited a friend and just observing the passion that he had for teaching and how his students connected with him. It just made me fall in love with the passion of teaching, and I decided to just go to teach.
I love that. I feel like the second career teacher is a big part of our job. A lot of us do start teaching right away. Like I know I did. I went right from college into my first teaching job, but we don't all start that way. And it's so cool that you had all of these pathways that really, especially I know from my experience working with you, are so connected to what you do now and what you bring to the classroom as well. So let's say, how, taking all those things into account, how did the microbit come into this story? Like, what was your experience getting started with microbits in particular?
Well, I think that, well, I can say that since I was a little kid, I've always been fascinated by hardware. in chips and PCBs and everything else. I had a friend, Stephen Callahan. He actually works at a county next to me, and he came up and he said, "You know what? Take a look at this cool thing. There's a microprocessor that is coming out." That was a long time ago, and he showed me this little. He had like a little caterpillar that would go back and forth, back and forth. And I'm like, oh, that's a pretty cool one. And I already had the experience. I've been doing coding. I was doing actually hardware with the previous job I was doing. So we've been doing a lot of things, but I've never seen something so small. And I knew about Arduinos as well, those things. But something so small that could do things. So then he kind of introduced me to it, and I started getting into it and testing it out. It was easy to code because it was block coding at the time. It was so easy to code and play around with it. And then it just drove me into wanting to try more and trying to try more. And that's up to where I am now, that I'm always trying to push the microwave to the limit.
You are good at it too.
Yeah.
This is actually like an off the wall question. Have you ever, tried to get the microbit to do something it can't do? Or have you always found a way to make it work?
I've tried almost everything to make it work. I think it goes to the point of the code. Actually, right now, we have a project that we're going to be starting in September, and I had to really think about there's a specific way that we're going to upload the data into a website. So they were asking me that they didn't want to see just the timestamp, but they wanted to see a clock running with the microbit. So it took me a little bit to figure that one out, to how without doing it through block, because we're teaching teachers to do it with block coding. I mean, it's easy to do it in Python, but doing it in block, it would be difficult. So trying to figure out how to do that, it was a little challenging. It was, but we got it done. So I'm testing it tonight to see if it's going to work. Those are things that we've done. We've done things where we send the microbit into a rocket, and we burn some along the way just because of the heat of the rocket. I have some districts I've tried also ovens, solar ovens, and they put the microbit in there and the battery pack has melted. So I mean, there's a lot of things that we've tried that we've learned from it, and now we make it better.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love hearing about all those crazy things that you're doing with your microbits. So amazing. So I know that you are really like the microbit in particular, and I know that you're familiar with other tools. So my question is, what about the microbit are you particularly attracted to, and why is that a tool that works so well for you, especially with all these different things that you like to do with it?
Oh, so well, that's a really good question, because I'm always about equity, always about equitable access for every student. And one of the things was that there's a lot of good products out there that you can use, for kids to learn coding and to learn how to use robotics and everything else. But you're talking about a $300 to $500 kit. Mm-hmm. So the first thing that fascinated me about microbit was that it was so cheap. It was extremely cheap. And then all the accessories that you can add to it. I mean, I've gotten to the point that we find sensors that with a shield, and we can add sensors and everything for like $50 total. So for me, that's something that is great, because when we talk about districts that don't have the funding but they want to get started, for $200 you can get a whole kit of a whole class set of microbits, and there's a lot of work. We have now districts that are purchasing 1,000 microbits in one shot. Just because they're so easy to buy and cheap. So that's one of the biggest reasons that it's so cheap. In addition to that, it looks so simple. But I was even talking to some scientists this morning about, they were amazed about the things that the microbit can do standing alone without even having to put sensors. Just the fact that it can measure the light sensitivity, it can measure that temperature, all these things. So it's fascinating how many things you can do with it in such a small piece. I wish we had a longer one so that way you can fit it into different tiny spots, but we figure out how to do that as well. But it has so much capabilities. And then once you add the accessories and adding, we've done a lot of robotics as well, and we've added the microbit to the robots, and the ease of using the microbit to code the robots it's so easy that it makes it easy for somebody that has no code experience to start doing it, and that's engaging for any kid.
Yeah.
And it gives them the opportunity to do robotics without being so expensive.
Oh my gosh, yes. A lot of those big robotics kits are super expensive. And you're right. This is a super equitable tool for schools and for teachers. And, you know, I feel like it's a really equitable tool for kids too. I have a lot of times in my classroom that I do stuff with microbit and kids really like it. And they're like, how much is it? And I'm like, oh, it's like 20 bucks. And kids are like, 20 bucks? I could buy one of these for myself. And they get really excited because it's accessible to them, you know, like it's something that they could even ask for and it can end up in their stocking, you know, at a holiday. So it is just a fantastic equitable tool that, you know, we both love very much for sure. Now, you mentioned a lot about science. So I want to dig a little bit more into the science, especially with NGSS. The next generation science standards are one of the predominant science standards in the country right now. I know that I use them in my classroom, and a lot of our states are moving towards that kind of model of science standards and thinking through project-based learning and you know, real relevant issues in science and connecting things to that. So what are the science standards for you, and how does microbit fit into that, and what are some things you do with NGSS?
Yeah, so well, since I work, PK-12, I'm always trying to find ideas, different ones that we can train teachers on. Yeah. So we've introduced the microbit in ideas where we can use mainly on engineering pieces in the lower grades in elementary, on some of the engineering standards, as well as some of the physical science standards. So a good example is we've done in third grade, we've used third grade, we've done parachutes to look at forces. And then so we put the microbit in it and we try to analyze the data from the microbit. Even though they're not really at that level, they don't have to do big amount of data, graphical data, but at least they're able to see the correlation between as it falls down and as it touches the ground, what's happening to it. So we've done a lot of those things. We've done a lot of, one great way to use the microbit is using the PS4 DCI, which is all the waves standards. There's multiple ways to use the wave standards as well. And then what we've done recently that we're doing a lot of is relating using the microbit as a tool. I like to say that it's a tool because it's really just a tool, but we're using the microbit as a tool to analyze and interpret the data. So we collect the data using the microbit, and then students are able to analyze and interpret the data. And what's cool about that, you can do that in any grade level, but what is cool about it is that students are able to visualize that data that they collected themselves with a very, very inexpensive sensor, which is something cool that they can do. And then they've learned to do a lot of analyzing, interpreting, and we've connected a lot to climate action, and also social justice. So that way they have those big phenomena connections where they're trying to solve a problem based on the data that they collected.
Yeah, data analytics, data visualization is such a big topic right now, and it feels really big and scary to a lot of people and almost foreign. Like, this is a whole language I don't speak. But the data logging feature on the microbit, you're right, it's easily accessible because the microbit itself is so simple to use and so easy to get a hold of. But then it has great features to actually look at the data and visualize it for you. And then you can go beyond that. But even just what's there with just the microbit by itself is really fantastic. If anyone has not had a chance to look at the data logging, that is definitely something worth exploring, and maybe something we'll look at too when we go to breakout rooms. That might be something people are really interested in. But yeah, so let's see. Let me ask another question here and get our conversation continuing on. Talking about some resources, we talked about NGSS and a lot of these things. Are there any resources or curriculums or things like that that you particularly like with the microbit that maybe harken to some of the things that you've discussed already?
Well, I'm not too familiar with the Pathfinders, but I started looking at it because of you. And actually, it's actually a good place to start. It has a lot of good features in it. That's the one that I've been looking at a lot. We've been doing some writing as well for it. It's not official, but we've been doing some writing just to get the experience. Obviously, the Microbit Foundation website as well has a lot of stuff to use. Also, the MakeCode as well. MakeCode website has some features to use as well. And then I get a lot of stuff from different champions. I mean, there's a lot of champions out there that are starting to do cool things. And sometimes they start with one idea and then I build on that idea and try to push it a little bit further into the science behind it. And I think that the biggest piece is the three things that I always think about. I mean, the microbit has a lot of things, but the accelerometer, the light sensor, and the temperature sensor, those three, you can do so many things with them, and you can connect a lot of science with it.
They can.
Yeah.
Before the kids start.
I agree. Here, give me
Also,
just a second. I'm hearing someone in the background. Okay. So you mentioned the Microbit Champions, and I want to bring that to light a little bit. So we are both Microbit Champions, which is this really fantastic international program for people who use Microbit and teach Microbit all over the world. Can you tell us more about the Microbit Champions program and what it has meant to you as going forward and exploring Microbit in this community?
Oh yeah, definitely. I actually don't call it a Microbit Champion program. I call it a Microbit Champion family, just because it really is a family. I mean, it's been at least I've been in as a Microbit Champion 2 years, and it's a great opportunity. First of all, just to get to know other people that have the same likes and that are connecting with Microbit. The advantage of being all around the world and being able to see different ideas and connecting with people around the world on how they are working in their communities. I've gotten ideas where I'm able to connect with somebody that is in a very low socioeconomic community and ask them questions about how are they getting there, how are they using the partners, and that's given me the opportunity to learn from them and then also go into somewhere else and try it myself. Also different projects that we've tried out. Definitely the get-togethers. We have our monthly meetings now that it's getting together and learning from each other, learning from what we're doing in the field. And then also when we connect in different conferences and we're able to just become a very good friendship and network that we are supporting each other. I mean, we've done workshops all over the place. Whenever somebody needs it, we're out there to support each other. So it's become a family in the community.
Yeah,
I mean, you need to join.
Yes, I cannot agree with you anymore. I feel very much the same way, and I love my fellow Microbit champions, and it's such a great place to go to get ideas or, ask a question. Now, not everybody is a Microbit champion. However, I will say that everyone can access the Microbit champions via Twitter. So if you have Twitter, if you start looking at or following hashtag Microbit champions, all one word with a capital C, you're going to see all the threads of all these people all over the world. And one thing I tell people quite a lot is that if you have a really good question about Microbit and you don't know where to go tweet it out with hashtag Microbit champions and someone will figure it out or find an answer or get you what you need. So it really is, it's a cool network to be able to access. I mean, I love being part of it, and I know you do too, Rudy. And in order to be a Microbit champion, you have to teach with Microbit, and you also have to want to share Microbit with other people. So the program, I believe, to my knowledge, opens up every year in January. So you would apply in the months preceding or before January, and then ideally, hopefully, be accepted to join in. And it really is a cool program. I love it. It's a lot of wonderful people. We have had a lot of fun. Like we said, we met up with all of our champions at ISTE this past year in Philadelphia, and we ate food together. We went to all of each other's presentations and helped out. We managed like hundreds of microbits It was a really, really good time. So let me just see if, let's just say if anyone has questions for Rudy about any of these things, NGSS, microbit, about Rudy and what he does at all, please feel free to throw them in the chat. It looks like some people are asking for your Twitter, which is great. You post a lot of really good stuff on Twitter. It sounds like you have a project you're working on right now. Have you posted about that project recently?
Not yet, because we are right now, we are just preparing the agenda. So I will actually be in San Diego in September. So we'll be there, and that's when we're going to start the project. It's a really cool project because we're trying to develop 5th to 8th grade teachers and support them into integrating computer science standards in NGSS. So that's going to be something that we're really excited about. And the cool thing is that once the data gets collected, it'll go into what is called a FieldScopes website. So then kids can access it all over the world. And it's all connected to climate action.
That is really amazing. Climate action is so important. NGSS is very current and now, and microbit is just like an amazing tool, and you're putting them all together, Rudy. It's amazing. I'm so excited. Now
I see a question. I see a question in the chat. So it says, question for Rudy: what does your first day of using microbit with a group of kids looks like? What do you do the first day? Oh, good question. It's really depending on the level of the kid, depending on the grade level, but I always start with the happy face, using the LEDs and the happy face. That's my hello world in the code, in microbit code. It's just doing the LEDs with the happy face, because that gives us the opportunity to see how much the student actually knows about block coding and relating that. And I also use that opportunity to show them the way the blocks are arranged. So color of blocks, the grooves on the blocks, or the oval blocks. So that way I always talk about them, okay, what fits in what? So it looks like a puzzle. So the ovals will fit only in the oval areas. The ones with grooves will fit only in the groove area, like a puzzle. So those are the two things that I usually do with students. Once I have that knowledge of them, then I take them sensor by sensor, and then just showing the sensor first, and then talking definitely about inputs, outputs, and what's being processed. I typically now do not just go in and teach them. We use what is called the Project Zero strategies, which is really to, it's from Stanford, and we actually use those to be able to get kids to really put it on paper, think and analyze what's the input, what's the output, and what is the process they want to use with the microbit as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Really getting them to think of everything through. That is I feel like the endless pursuit of the educator is getting them to think. And I really love that strategy of having them go sensor by sensor, because the sensors are really the magical part, I feel like, of physical computing. Coding is wonderful and great and all, but it's when it's in your hand and it does something, like there's a reaction, that it really comes to life. I love that idea for sure. Now, I love that for students, that's your first step. Can I ask, what about with teachers? So I know that you work in a lot of different facets, and you do work with teachers and with districts. What's your first step with a group of teachers or with a district?
Well, good question, because I actually start the same way. I actually start, the majority of teachers that, especially when I'm working on the science side, the majority of teachers do not have any knowledge. I actually did a workshop 2 days ago with teachers, and we worked with them, and they were science teachers. And I asked the question, how much do you know about microbit? And all of them said, I don't know. I've never seen it. So that is a first flag for me to say, I have to start with the happy face in the LEDs. And so it's a very, very easy thing to do with them. It gives them confidence, and it doesn't get them frustrated, because that's my key for any student or any teacher. I want them to feel comfortable, that feel safe, that they can do the simple code, and then move them into doing additional things. And I think that happy face one is the easiest one to do, having them to switch between happy, sad, and then move them along into anything else. But I do the same thing with the teachers as well. Now with the teachers, I do try, depending on the teachers that are with me or the session that I'm doing, I base it on understanding what the hardware is of the microbit. So
Yeah.
I saw that they posted the Project Zero strategies there as well. We use what it's called parts, purpose, and complexity. So before we even connect the microbit, we look at the microbit and we look at each part of the microbit and try to determine what's the purpose of each part and what are some complexities that it will have. So that gives us the opportunity for students and for teachers to first understand where they're going to connect. Because in the old days, we used to just give them the microbit, and then everybody was trying to plug in the USB in the battery pack. So it was a mess. So then that gives us an opportunity to give them a chance to experience it first, to really understand the hardware, and then they can connect.
Yeah, I love that too. The getting them to experience and kind of see like what could the end goal be, and then going into the nitty gritty of how it's going to work and getting it going. That makes a lot of sense to me for sure. Again, if anyone has questions or wants to know more, please feel free to drop those in the chat. We will pull them out and ask. We still have another couple minutes that we could talk about a few more things. So let me, let me ask another question. I don't know if we got to this question. There we go. We talked about like working with students, we talked about working with teachers, and I know that you have many hats and many roles, and we talked a little bit about how you got from place to place, but could you tell me a little bit more about how you went through that transition from being a classroom teacher to being more of an admin and a support role? Because I know a lot of the teachers that we work with, they start off exactly like us in a classroom. They do amazing things, and then it's time to share that with more people. So how was that transition for you?
So what the transition is, that's a very, very a question really close to my heart, actually, because one of the things about that I've learned and I've thought about, I work with a lot of teachers now, leaders, and we develop teacher leaders. And the first thing, even myself, when I started teaching, we don't see ourselves as leaders, but we are leaders. We are leaders of our classroom. And I think that's being able to transition in understanding and accept that you are a leader in your classroom. It gives you the opportunity to start thinking beyond the classroom, right? So that's one thing that I always think about. However, for me, the transition happened little by little. Like I said, I went from the industry into education. So I didn't go into education because of the pay. I actually went because of the pay cut. So it was a different story. I went because it was passion. And even when I mentor teachers now, we are in teaching because we are passionate about what we do. So it's hard to leave the classroom. It's extremely hard to leave the classroom. And that was a difficult part for me. When I got to the ending time of my teaching career, you could say in the classroom, I had to think about, could I impact 180 kids or could I impact 180,000 kids? And that's what really made me think about the movement. So thinking about moving from teaching into an admin role, it wasn't because of wanting to get higher in the title or anything else, but it's really thinking about the impact. A good friend of mine, Art Lopez, I was just with him this summer, and he said something that really stuck to my heart, and I still remember it because he says, no matter what decision we make, it's always about the kids. So whether you're in the highest admin place or you're in the teaching in the classroom, it's always about the kids. So for me, that's always been my movement from place to place. When I think about how many kids I can impact, and not just me, but by me touching the hearts of every teacher, they're going to impact their kids, and that's going to be an impact. And then the higher you move into admin, the higher you can have that umbrella to be able to talk to different people, and being able to touch more lives around, and not only students, but also teachers. Because one of my favorite things to do is when I have teachers excited about, they learn something and they go in and they want to use it with their kids. That makes my day completely. I mean, I can have the worst day, but if I see a teacher excited about doing something with the kids, it just makes my day. So that's really how I've been going along. And now the roles that I'm having now is, I feel like it's a blessing. It's just been a blessing that is giving me different opportunities to move around, to get to know more people. I have such a blessing of knowing so many good people. I mean, from being all the microbit champions, CSDA board, all the people there, all CSDA. I mean, all the people that I've met is just amazing, and they're very knowledgeable. And I am a sponge, and I love to learn. So the more I learn from people around me, the more energy I get. So that's the opportunity I've seen as you move forward. And even though I still go back to stay within the kids. So I spend a lot of time with going to classrooms and everything, because I don't want to disconnect from really, when you go up there, sometimes you forget what happens in the classroom. I don't like to do that. So I like to keep in touch with what's happening in the classroom, so I know what I'm advocating for.
Yeah, I think that that's one of the things that's so special about you, Rudy, is that you stay very rooted, and no matter how high you climb, that you always have those kids in the center of your mind and the center of your heart. And everyone is so lucky to partake in that whenever they can. And I know I feel very lucky to partake in that with you whenever we get together. We have a few questions in the chat. The first one here was, do you favor the kids working in pairs or one-on-one with the microbit?
Good question. Okay, I'm gonna give you my personal thought, and then I'll give the reality. My personal thought, I like to have them in their own microbit for them to experience the physical aspect of it. But even though if I use the individual microbits, I still have them do pair programming, because I want the collaboration with it. I don't want to miss out the collaboration. I want them to learn from each other and to have that collaboration. So I tend to do that just because I need them to have the experience of the physical aspect, especially when we go into robotics. They want to have the robot, and then having to share, sometimes it becomes difficult, especially at the lower grades. So I like to have them with individual, but not forgetting they have to collaborate. They have to do that pair programming. Otherwise, working individually is not going to be a good idea. However, financially, it does get expensive when you have a lot of students with one microbit. So pair is the best. I will not go with more than a pair, for sure. Just a pair is usually what I do, and that gives you the opportunity also to do the simulator. One does this, they both do the simulator. One gets the microbit, and then they can share back the microbit. I actually recently did it. And the nice thing is that now you pair the microbit easily. So once you pair it, they can switch back and forth, and it's easy to just switch. So that's what I would recommend. Stay within maintaining the collaboration, whatever the classroom culture is. If they can work well in pairs, keep them in pairs and work with one microbit. But if you want them to really have that experience of the physical computing, then have them have the microbit for a little bit, or take it, give it to them for a little bit, take it out, and then back and forth, so that way they have that opportunity. Yeah,
that is wonderful advice, and I would second that, until the day is done, for sure. We had another question. What was it like to present at ISTE, and what would you tell a teacher who's nervous about presenting a proposal?
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's a twofold question, and I'm gonna answer. Let me start with this. I always get nervous. I like to be transparent. I like to be fully transparent, and I always get nervous. I was nervous for today. I always get nervous at the beginning, even if I have prepared 20 times. I get nervous. It's normal for us to get nervous when we try to present in big crowds. I mean, I've gotten to a point that I presented in crowds of 1,000, which it gets pretty nervous. But I think that goes back to, why are we doing it, right? So why is it that we're doing this? And I always go back to thinking about, if you have something that you want to present, it's because it's something that you are passionate about and you want to share with the rest of the people, with the world. And that should be the connection. When you propose, you do a proposal, you want to share your great aha moments with the rest of the world. And that should be the driver to wanting to do something, no matter how many people are in there or not. To do the proposal, I've been learning, and I'm gonna be honest. I've been learning how to do those proposals, but I never do them alone. I actually write them, and I usually I'm bouncing ideas with somebody else. Katie is one of them. I'm all the time. If it's a microbit, I'm always sending her. It's like, can you please read it just to make sure it sounds right? So it's something that I tend to do. I don't work alone. Like I said at the beginning, where I'm at, I'm blessed because I'm not there just because it's me. It's been because there's a team in a family that it's all of us working together to get where we are. So that's one thing I recommend. When you submit a proposal, bounce out ideas with somebody that has a little bit more. If it's a microbit one, send it to one of the champions. Champions can probably help.
Yeah, I can not only imagine that our champions community would be so excited to help anyone with anything microbit oriented, because, well, we all just love the microbit so much. That's why we're part of the champions family, because we like to share it with other people. So that's a great idea. It's very good advice. We got another question here from Anne. Could you tell us more about the Climate Challenge project? What are they measuring and how are they analyzing the data?
Okay, so we're actually building upon a project that had already been there, which is called the Field Scopes project. So they've already been doing collecting data, just handwritten, and take it off and then write it down, then put it on the spreadsheet and put it out there. So what we've been doing is we are trying to teach the teachers and the students to write their code where they can write the latitude, the longitude, the timestamp as well. And then we are using a shield. We're actually connecting a shield to it where we're going to collect barometric pressure, humidity. Those two we're going to collect, and then we're still using the light sensor and the temperature sensor from the microbit. So those are the 4 things that we're going to collect. And what we're doing is that we're using, once we collect the data, we're using the microbit too with a data logger. And then we're collecting that data, we're pulling it out into a spreadsheet. And then that CSV file, it gets uploaded into the website. And then it automatically adjusts all the graphical representations and everything. However, I also been showing teachers how to use CodeApp from the Concord Consortium, which is the easiest way to make graphs without having to know a lot of graphics. So especially in middle school, we use that a lot, where they just upload the CSV, and then kids learn to analyze by manipulating the data. So they actually learn to move the independent variable to the dependent variable, and they switch them. And then so the questions I always ask them is, what is the best way to represent the data that you want us to visualize? So there's conversations that we have about how, first of all, analyzing the data, interpreting the data, and how are you going to make it public where people are going to understand the data? Because that's a huge thing. I mean, we see it on Twitter all the time. False data, and then everybody falls for it because it just looks pretty. But so we want students to really learn how to analyze that data and make sure that they show the data in the best way possible. I hope that answered it.
Yeah, you definitely did. And that link is in the chat. And we'll make sure too that all of these ideas and thoughts and resources get put into our Padlet. We have a place to share a lot of that information. Now, I'm going to ask one more follow-up question, and then I think we'll probably get ready for breakout room soon. But what age group are you doing that project with, that climate action project?
So we're trying to do it between 5th grade and 8th grade.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're trying, our goal is to try to reach, right now it's in California, so we're reaching these teachers in California, 5th to 8th grade, especially in San Diego and in Spanish class where we're really doing it. But eventually we want to spread it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put the link of CodeApp in the chat because it's actually CodeApp. So let me just put it in there. It's this one here.
Good. Fantastic. That's so great. Thank you so much for that, Rudy. Last call for everyone. This isn't the last time you're going to see Rudy. We'll have more time with Rudy for sure in breakout rooms. But if anyone has any other questions for Rudy, now's the time to pop those in the chat. We can get all those good tidbits, but this has really been so fantastic. You are a wealth of knowledge, and I feel like such an inspiration for everyone to hold on to those the core thoughts and those roots of why we are doing what we're doing. And you're doing amazing projects with kids and with teachers and at large scales. And Rudy, I'm so excited to know you.
Thank you. I'm excited to know you too. I'm excited to be here with CodeJoy and Kelsey, and I saw Matt there somewhere in the chat, so it's exciting.